The Romans also created a Senate, which they elected leaders, and they focused on passing laws for the greater good of their society. And we took this idea directly from the Romans. We have a Senate, and their only job is to pass laws. And the Romans were the first ones to do that. The veto power, Romans also enacted a veto power, and what this is where the person in the executive branch, so our president of the United States or our state government, they have a chance to say, you know what, this law is not good for everybody. This law is unconstitutional. I'm not going to pass this law, and they can get that law thrown out, and it won't go into passage. And more, just as important, and probably more important, is that the Romans created the first set of written laws. Before this time, laws were strictly spread by word of mouth. So there was a lot of confusion. What is a law? What isn't a law? That sort of thing. And the Romans simplified things and made things much easier by writing them down. Now, it wasn't on a piece of paper, it was on a stone tablet, and they just engraved the laws for everybody to see. Who were protected by the laws? All free citizens. So no no women, no slaves, or no foreigners. It was only Roman men who were protected under the law, and these laws would be fairly administered. This is a picture of the Roman Senate. It's a circular building. You have someone in the middle talk about a law that they want to propose and get passed, and then the people out there, once the guy in the middle is done, they will ask questions and debate whether they should have that law or not. And here's the Roman Forum today. Obviously, it's not near of good condition as it used to be, but you can go there today in Rome and see the ruins of the Great Forum. Now, where the Greeks and the Romans focus more on political issues, or not focus, but were focused more on political issues, the Judaism and Christianity did not focus nearly at all, really, on political issues. Rather, they focused on how should people act in society. How are people going to live their lives? And they did this by a couple different ways. Like I said, they focused more on moral laws, and they passed, or they wrote, or they created the Ten Commandments and the 7 universal laws. And what both of those did was not laws, that's a typo right there, cross that out, they focused on religious and social behavior. So, how to act in society. Some of the examples of the Ten Commandments are: thou shalt not kill, obviously; thou shalt not steal, obviously; and thou shalt honor thy mother and father. So it was more like we were talking about, like I was just saying, how do people act in society. They also talked about the duties of the individual, that people in society have a responsibility to do certain things. One is to serve others, the community, and to oppose injustice. So if you see somebody stealing something, if you see somebody doing something they're not supposed to do, it is your duty to step up and either stop them yourself, call someone to come do it, and notify people when others are doing bad or wrong things. And also, as you serve others, you want to help those in need, those that are less fortunate than you, those who are maybe struggling with maybe a death in the family or some bad thing that just happened. We are to help those in need, and that's where we get that from. And finally, equality and dignity. Everyone is considered equal. We are all individuals, and there is no hierarchy. You are not better than me just because you are who you are. We're all equal under the eyes of the Lord. And then justice. All people shall respect and follow laws. And you can see these in our society today. If a president does something wrong, he is going to be does something illegal, he'll get arrested for it. Just because he's the president of the United States doesn't mean that he is exempt from our laws. Moses in the Ten Commandments, this is just a picture of him, and the story goes that God gave Moses the Ten Commandments. Moses was supposed to share them with everybody. Next, we come to England. So Greece and Rome, they focus more on political rights. Judaism, Christianity, more on moral rights, how to live and function within a society. After Greece and Rome, the gains that they have made in politics and government, those all went away. Basically, the Catholic Church and monarchies ruled for the next 1,000 years, and they oppressed people. They gave nobody rights, and basically, people were almost they had to do what the king and what the church wanted, or they would be killed. And eventually, in England, there was a rebirth of principles that were found in Greece and Rome. They were a little different, but very similar principles. First thing that they talked about was common law, and these are laws based on custom and previous court rulings, and it's applied to all of England. This is unlike the Romans. It's in the Roman times, it was based on the ruler. So if the ruler did not believe in a certain law, he did not have to enforce it. Here, it's applied to all of England, not just cities or not just states, but the whole country, and it's based on previous rulings. So if there was a law that's already been in place, you have to follow that. You don't get to choose which laws excuse me, you want and don't want. They also had a jury. Back with the Greeks, had a jury also. They had 200 to 2,000 people on a jury. The juries in England at this time were not nearly as many people. There were just 12 people, and that is the exact same amount of number that we have on our juries today, and we got it from the English, and that's where local citizens took part in trials, helped determine justice, but they did not have a verdict. Like today, the jury's responsibility is to rule on the case. Is that person guilty or innocent? Back then in England, that's not what the role of the jury was. The role of the jury was just to answer the judge's question, and then the judge would eventually make that ruling. Then in the year 1215, you have one of the most important legal documents in the history of civilization. That's the Magna Carta, and it recognized that citizens have rights. Before this time, the citizens really didn't have rights. It was whatever the king decided. If the king liked you, then you were pretty much in good standing. If the king didn't like you, you wouldn't be around long. He'd find a way to get rid of you, and there was nothing anybody can do against the king. The king pretty much made up his own rules. Well, with the signing of the Magna Carta, there was a problem between the reason it came up was that the English were in a war with France. They lost the war. The nobles were mad that they lost. They were being taxed a lot, so they rebelled, and they formed this agreement called the Magna Carta that stated that the king had to give them rights, and he must also now follow the laws. And this influenced common law and later led to a constitutional monarchy. And finally, eventually, about 450 years later, the English Bill of Rights were signed, and this ensured Parliament was superior to the monarch. What is Parliament? Parliament is simply like our Congress today. That's all that Parliament is. So the English Bill of Rights gave the power to the Parliament to make the rules, not the king, not the queen, not the monarch, but the Parliament, or our Congress. And it guaranteed basic legal rights to citizens, and now all citizens. And then this established a limited monarchy where they would still have a king or queen, sort of like our president, but that the